Hey guys, it's Liv here. In today's video, we're going to be using a team built around, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, Tailwind Lumineon. I don't know how I found this team. I'm going to be on. Well, okay, so I know I found this team. This is what happens when you look on VGC pace at 4 in the morning. There's not going to be a team builder today for the reasons of I don't understand this team. You're going to see Lumineon and Treads in the thumbnail though, and that's how we're going to do it today. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to see if we can get some wins with this. For what it's worth, I did some laddering at 4 in the morning when I woke up today. And honestly, the team does kind of kick ass. Like, this is a fire team, I can't lie. But hopefully you enjoy, and if you do, like and subscribe, and answer the comment question of the day. What's the weirdest Pokemon you've used in Series 2 so far? Because I think this takes the cake. This definitely takes the cake for me. But with that said, looking at this team, I don't think I really need Tailwind here. The Lumineon could be good for a Gastrodon Mirror, actually. It might not be terrible. Especially redirecting stuff from Moth, though I could just get Earth Powered, which is kind of an issue. It could also be useful for redirecting stuff from Terragon Treads. I'm definitely going to lead off with Treads, and I think I'm going to lead off with Moth as well. This should be a decent lead. I'm going to bring Go-Go in the back, and then I think Final Mon will be, I kind of want to lead off with Fluttermane. I'm going to bring Fluttermane as Final Mon. The reason I'm bringing Go-Go, by the way, which is another fucking random thing in this team that I didn't even go over, but it should help actually with pressuring Gastrodon, especially if it does end up going for the not Terra route. If my opponent maybe, let's say, decides to go for Terra on their Iron Hands or their Corviknight, this is a great way to just Oko Gastrodon. And if they do go for Terra, it's most likely Fire, and I can just massacre that with Iron Treads. So I'm pretty okay with this. They're going to lead off with the Arcanine and the Grimmsnarl. So this works out perfect for me, actually. I'm going to proceed to go for the Tantrum into Treads, into Arcanine from Treads. Meanwhile, I'm going to go for probably just a Sludge Wave here, because the Sludge Wave should be a decent way to just damage the Arcanine, as well as the Grimmsnarl for spread. Not only this, but the Stomping Tantrum should be a nice way to finish off Arcanine. It would essentially need to be like a Jolly Nature set to actually outpace me. And I'm talking like really fast Jolly, because we actually hit 155 with our spread. Which I know what we hit, but I'm not doing a team builder, because despite knowing that, I don't know what any of these spreads do. This team is way above my pay grade, to be completely honest. So there's just not gonna be a team builder today. But just note that that this team is actually kind of fun. It's pretty fun, and it's also a pretty insane team. They're gonna go for Reflect. That's fine. We can at least get a really good hit on Grimm, if nothing else, with this. And despite obviously the fact that, you know, we're still a spread attack, this should do some good damage. Like, Grimm's already below half. And then Arcanine should probably take at least another, like, 40%. Yeah, like another 40-50%. I'll take that. My opponent's actually going to reveal Flare Blitz here. Now, Flare Blitz I don't mind, because for one, it doesn't KO. But more important... Oh, never mind, it burned. Okay, so that's definitely going to KO. Okay. It's still not a huge deal, to be honest. Because at this point, I can actually just... Oh, Arcanine just died to Recoil. Okay, even better. Because that's the only Mon besides... Actually, no, that's quite literally the only Mon besides, like, a Terragon Gastrodon that not Terragon, Terra Fire Gastrodon that I needed Treads for. So what I'm actually going to proceed to do here, I'm going to bring in the Fluttermane. Now, Fluttermane and Moth should be able to get some good damage off. Thankfully, with Treads, we were able to break through the Arcanine, because it was an annoying Pokemon for these two as a tandem to actually KO. Now, I will say that my opponent can very easily just go for like a Light Screen this turn, which I'm okay with. I don't really care. We'll go for Heat Wave plus Dazzling Gleam. Heat Wave plus Gleam, even if my opponent does go for a Light Scream, should be enough to KO. And I think realistically what I can do on the following turn, I can always go for Terra Steel on my Fluttermane, which should be a nice way if I do for some reason feel the need to click Sludge Wave again. It would really depend on if something like Sylveon came in the back or not. Because if Sylveon does come in the back, I think it's my best play, as it'll be a nice resistance to Hyper Voice Sylveon, while also allowing me to just click Sludge Wave without killing off my Fluttermane. So that'll be a decent option. I could also go for Terra Grass if something like Gastrodon comes in the back, and then proceed to go for Shadow Ball plus Energy Ball on that turn. My opponent's actually going to Terra something else. This means the Grimmsnarl or Corviknight. I'm really okay with either one of these. They're going to Terra on the Corviknight into Terra Dragon. I've seen this going around a bit, and I can't lie, clicking Gleam for this was an accident. This was more so just to damage Corviknight and Grimm with spread in case I didn't kill with Focus Sash Gleam after Light Screen. But you know what? It's a happy accident. It is definitely a happy accident. And it's going to make it seem like I really know what I'm doing for some reason. But no, this Gleam should KO at least a Grimm. It does nothing to Corviknight. I'm kind of shocked by that. But we're still not too concerned with this, to be honest. They're probably going to click like an Iron Defense. Nope, they're going to Iron Head instead. This brings us down to Focus Sash, which is honestly a lot more than I thought it would do. I didn't really think Corviknight was going to bring us down to Focus Sash, but you know what? I'll take that. Let's see. So, Terra Dragon, and then it has Iron Head. Okay. So this is actually fine for me. I can proceed to go for a Dazzling Gleam here, and then I can go for Protect on Iron Moth. This will essentially guarantee that I can get up my Gleam without having to worry about my Moth getting fake outed either, which could in theory open up my opponent to do some damage, but it's Corviknight. I don't think it really has a way to hit me that well. This Dazzling Gleam should do some good damage to Corviknight, thankfully, as well as Iron Hands. We'll see Roost. I'm fine with this. Meanwhile, my opponent is going to go for... What are they going to go? Wild Charge. Okay, so Wild Charge is fine. I don't mind Iron Hands going for Wild Charge here. Now, I will say, I don't think either Pokemon actually is a good way to attack me. Essentially, the only way Corviknight can really pressure my Go-Go would be if it goes for a Brave Bird here. Meanwhile, Iron Hands would need like an Ice Punch. So I'm actually going to proceed to go for a Bulk Up here. Bulk Up should be a strong way to set up on this. I should outpace both Pokemon in theory. Maybe not the Corviknight, but I should definitely outpace the Iron Hands at least. I can't imagine that Iron Hands would really be creeping this heavily for me. Meanwhile, I'm going to proceed to go for a Heat Wave. Actually, no. I'm going to proceed to go for... Yeah, I'm going to go for a Heat Wave here. I can at least potentially burn both Pokemon, which will be decent. And truthfully, I'm banking off of my Go-Go to actually win me this game at this point. We've revealed Citrus on Iron Hands, which is fine. Let's see. And then Corviknight is going to be slower than us. That's good to know. So Go-Go is the second fastest Pokemon in the field at this point. My opponent has no form of speed control outside of manual Tailwind. Meanwhile, Corviknight is going to go for a Bulk Up here. Okay. So this is fine. And then Swords Dance Iron Hands. Okay, so this is also fine, actually. Because the Iron Hands can't actually go for Terra. So what I'm going to proceed to do, I'm going to go for a Bullet Seed here into the Iron Hands. And I'm going to go for a Heat Wave here. And actually, am I going to go for Heat Wave or am I going to go for Terra Grass? I'm going to go for Heat Wave. Because I probably should realistically go for Terra Grass. I'm still fine with this. On the next turn if I need to, we burn Corviknight, that's pretty good. On the next turn if I need to, I'll go for the Terra Grass and just pick this off with Energy Ball. We're not doing a ton of damage to this, but it's still honestly not a huge concern. Because with the +1 defense, we'll still take hits from this fairly well. And we could probably just bring this thing down to where it should be pick-offable with Terra Grass Energy Ball. Yeah, so we're fine with this. They're going to go for Roost and Corviknight. I'm perfectly okay with this. I'm curious about how they're actually going to try and break my team with Corviknight. Iron Hands will go for Wild Charge meanwhile. This does pick off Moth, but I'm okay with this because it did not go for Drain Punch. Which Drain Punch was the thing I was actually pretty scared of from this Pokemon. Thankfully, though, they're just going to let me take them out with a dual Rock Slide. So I'm going to go for... Well, actually, am I going to go for Rock Slide? I think I'm just going to go for Bullet Seed, truthfully. Yeah, I'm going to go for Bullet Seed. Because I think it's in my best interest to just try and make sure that Iron Hands is guaranteed picked off here. And there's no reason to let this thing even get up potential Drain Punch on me because I missed a Rock Slide. And now I can actually just go for single target Rock Slide, which will be decent. Not only this, but I can potentially just flinch out that Corviknight, which will be good. It's going to be a war of attrition for sure, but I think I can make it work. They're going to go for Brave Bird here, so this is fine. They've actually revealed their full moveset. Okay, so essentially their best way to take me out is with Iron Head. We know that Brave Bird barely did over half, so I'm going to go for the Terra Rock, and I'm going to go for a Milk Drink here. This should allow me a guaranteed turn to get some good recovery, and meanwhile I can go for Bulk Ups later on, and then just start flinching down the Corviknight, which will be good. The first Milk Drink sadly going off is a little unfortunate, but it's not really a big concern. Especially considering the fact that at an even amount of setup, my opponent barely did over half with Brave Bird, so the Iron Head should unquestionably not KO me. It should be a 2 KO, well 3 KO guaranteed, to be honest. So that'll be really good. Thankfully no Body Press, because that was actually something I was a little concerned about, as it would allow a fairly defensive Corviknight to actually get some good damage off on me. But this burn is actually really paying off, I'm going to be honest. We'll go for a Bulk Up this turn. My opponent going for a Roost this turn isn't really a huge concern. They've actually went through like 3 already, which is good for me. Meanwhile, I actually have a pretty easy time setting up with my opponent. Meanwhile, my opponent kind of does just need to keep attacking, which is really good for me. So we're going to go for another Bulk Up here. If my opponent goes for a Bulk Up, I'm fine with that because they'll keep taking damage. And their Reflect also being gone is huge because I now have a Stab boosted Rock Slide that is single target, and also I'm boosting higher than they are, even if they go for a Bulk Up this turn. So at this point, I'm actually in a pretty safe scenario, in my opinion. They'll go for Bulk Up, so be it. I'm going to go for Rock Slide, and I'm going to try and flinch them out. I can obviously also crit, which now is essentially what this game has come down to, is who can crit first. But I'm still fine with that because I still think that my Go-Go can do it. My Go-Go can definitely do it. This is a neutral rock slide and single target, so I can't see a world where this doesn't do it. Also, I can flinch my opponent in theory. They can never actually flinch me, which is great. We do a ton of damage there. Oh my god. We flinched the Corviknight. Okay, so it's unfortunate, but for what it's worth, the burn was the hacks that I think really mattered. At this point, the end game just came down to this. Really, whichever one of us won this game came off of that. The burn really just took away their chance to actually ever have a chance at winning this, which is the unfortunate aspect. Because it allowed myself to let them recover up a lot more, while also obviously forcing them to never actually KO me, which was really good. But regardless, though, we win game 1 off of Go-Go. Again, really fucking dumb how this mon is doing so good. But it is objectively like a pretty fire mon right now. Let's get into game number 2, though. Peace out, guys. Okay, so moving on to game number 2, we're taking on a team consisting of Torgal, Roaring Moon, Hariyama, Great Tusk, Sylveon, and Farigiraf. Okay. So I'm anticipating the Farigiraf and Hariyama lead. I think that Roaring Moon's pretty bad against my comp for what it's worth. So I'm actually going to lead off with Fluttermane, and I'm going to lead off with... What's another Pokemon I could lead to take advantage of Trick Room lead? I think I lead off with... I don't know, I feel like I have a few options here. For one, I could in theory lead off with Lumineon. Lumineon could maybe be a decent option, just in terms of being kind of a hard for them to KO. Go-Go could also be decent for what it's worth. I could lead off with Salmon to get the Intimidate, and then go for like a Protect on turn 1, and then go for Gleam, which could be decent. Hariyama could wide guard around it though, which is fine. I kind of want to lead off with Salamence. I'm going to bring Salamence and Fluttermane. I'm going to go with Moth in the back. And then I think I'm going to bring Go-Go, because Go-Go's probably a decent Great Tusk check for this team. I'm going to bench Lumineon yet again. Really just not the game for it, to be honest. Lumineon, weirdly enough, though, has probably been one of my most brought mons on ladder. Just because I've gotten a lot of good Tailwind matchups on Showdown ladder. I haven't really gotten them here, though. These have both been games where I've benefited a lot more from bringing Go-Go. Which typically I've only brought one of the two. I think there was a single game I've done out of like the 10 I did in practice where I brought both. But, I mean, they're kind of hard mons to bring both of for what it's worth. We'll see now if this is, so this is not a clear Tusk, Great Tusk, on a clear Amulet Great Tusk, which is good to note. So, I'm fine with this. They're probably going to go for Tailwind, for Trick Room this means, which I'm okay with. We're going to go for the Dazzling Gleam on turn 1, and then I'm going to proceed to go for a Focus Energy. The Focus Energy should help with just making sure I can crit through the Great Tusk next turn. I'm anticipating either a Protect to go off this turn, or my opponent to maybe go for like a Rock Slide or something. Frigg is definitely going to go for Trick Room, though. Or maybe Helping Hand or Hyper Voice. I'm anticipating a Trick Room, 100%. And I'm going to guess that this Great Tusk is like a fairly slow set, which is fine. I mean, even if it isn't for what it's worth, the Salamence would obviously outpace it, as well as the Fluttermane outpacing it. So their best interest is always just to click Trick Room here. They're going to go for Terra. That's probably on the Great Tusk. And I'm going to guess this Terra Steel. What is it going to be? This is going to be Terra Ground. Okay, so Terra Ground. That's still fine. I assumed if they were going to go for Terra, it would be into a resist for Fluttermane, but Terra Ground is still really good. Let's see. So they're going to probably click... They're actually going to click Protect. Okay, Protect works out well. We'll still get some good damage off for what it's worth. Despite being a spread move and no longer super effective, we'll probably do around like 40-ish. I'm going to guess like 40-ish%, because that's probably Assault Vest. No, that did like nothing. Oh my god. Okay, well... We'll need to essentially bank on critting through that Great Tusk, which I can manage that. That's not a huge concern. We avoid on Fluttermane, which keeps our Sash intact, and Salmon takes nothing. So, yeah, this leads me to believe Assault Vest, which I'm fine with. We'll go for the dual target here, and we're just going to take this mon out. This should be pretty easy to take out for what it's worth. As I said, I'm certain this is an Assault Vest set. I cannot see a world where this isn't Assault Vest Great Tusk. With how little that took and how little damage it did with the super effective Rock Slide on my Salamence, I'd be genuinely appalled if this thing was not Assault Vest, and it just took that hit that well. That'd be mind-numbing to me. But this Shadow Ball should do a little bit more damage, obviously, without being spread. I'm going to guess this probably does around like 1/3. Meanwhile, the Draco should just finish this thing off. Objectively, Draco will finish this mon off. I'm fine letting them get up Trick Room. Go-Go should still be decent under it. Yeah, that does an obscene amount of damage. Perfect. So, yeah, I'm anticipating this is definitely a Assault Vest set. Crit, perfect. This Mence, thankfully, just functions as Hydreigon did in Series 1 for the Dose of Fury matchups, but it works out really well because it's an Intimidator, which is so nice for this team. Even despite only having like 12 special attack, that just does a lot of damage. We'll see a Trick Room come up from Frigg this turn. That's honestly fine. Now, depending on if Sylveon comes in or not, I might go for the Terra Steel on Salamence. I would definitely keep it on Salamence and not on Flutter Mane because I want to keep my immunity to Hyper Voice. So it would definitely be on Salamence. If Sylveon comes in, they're going to go into Curdle. That is the Torkoal. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We're gonna go for Draco into that spot. Meanwhile, on my Flutter Mane, I'm gonna proceed to go for a Shadow Ball. We're not really too scared of Farig for what it's worth. It actually doesn't really bother my comp at all outside of getting up Trick Room. And in theory, while I could go for just the Protects to get around the Eruption turns, I don't really mind. Farig would essentially need to have Gleam while Torkoal also goes for Eruption to actually break my Flutter Mane Sash. So we're going to see Eruption Torkoal, that's fine. Mence should chew it. Yeah, Mence takes nothing from that. And it doesn't even bring us down to Sash. I'm kind of curious as to how that happened. So this is fine, actually. Thankfully, they didn't even KO my Salamence, which I'm going to be honest, I really thought they would, or I thought they could Gleam there. Which means that Torkoal is finished. So Torkoal's gone. Perfect. I love the Focus Energy set. Works great on Hydreigon, works great on Salamence. Not only this, but depending on what my opponent actually goes into next turn, I could probably actually just make a merit to just tear my Salamence. I'm really hoping that Salamence comes in. And that Salamence Roaring. Okay, yeah, perfect. Roaring Moon comes in. This could not have worked out better. Because I'm just going to go for Bullet Seed into the Farigiraf. Meanwhile, I'm going to go for the Draco into the Roaring Moon here. Now, in theory, they could Terra, which is actually, just in case they Terra Flag, I'm going to go for Rock Slide. Now we'll go for Terra Steel here, which should resist any sort of Dragon attack or like an Acrobatics that they want to go for, which works out well for me. It also resists Psychic, which is great because currently we're neutral to it. And that's the bigger concern as well. Resisting like the Psychic, the Hyper Voice, the Dazzling Gleam, any common attack this would want to go for essentially, I can guarantee resist it, and I should underpace as well. This would need to be like a ridiculously slow Roaring Moon to actually underpace me, which I guess it could be in theory, but I don't anticipate this is like a Trick Room oriented Roaring Moon. Which, if it is, that's fine. If they go for Terra, we'll know that we're objectively slower, but even still, I'm fine. Yep, so the Psychic's gonna go off. This should do no damage. Yep, 30-ish damage, that's fine. Spidef drop doesn't really matter. If Roaring Moon attacks first, it's just gonna KO. That does no damage. I'm fine with this. Draco miss. Are you kidding? Okay, that's pretty bad. That's really bad, actually. Can Roaring Moon? Nope. Roaring Moon does get the KO. That's fine. Okay. So that's pretty not good. That's really not good, actually. I think that might lose me the game. That might lose me the game, yeah. I don't think I have an out, I'm gonna be honest. Because I can't KO the Farigiraf immediately. So I guess in theory, actually, maybe I can. Because Rock Slide wasn't stabbed and we did an okay amount to it as it is. We'll go for Bullet Seed here. And then I'm gonna go for Protect. And essentially next turn, I just need to make sure that I can KO Roaring Moon somehow. Which will be an uphill battle, to say the least. KOing Roaring Moon and making sure I can do that will definitely be a fight that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to handle. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see if we can make that work. So, Roaring Moon will... Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I think Roaring Moon will value the Iron Moth first, which I'm okay with that. I'm pretty okay with that, actually. That should work out really well for me. Yeah, fuck. I'm a little bit on edge, to say the least, trying to fucking beat this moon. Okay, so the Bullet Seed's gonna go off, thankfully. We do nothing. We do nothing. That Ferg is gonna, yeah, that's gonna beat us. We would need to literally crit like every Bullet Seed hit from here and get like 5 rolls at the same time, which I don't think is gonna happen. That's just objectively not gonna happen. 4 hits, yep, even worse. Okay, and then Roaring Moon's gonna go for Acrobatics. That's just gonna KO. Okay, well, we're gonna go for Bullet Seed just in case. And then I'm going to proceed to go for a Sludge Wave, just in case. Because if I do manage to keep Iron Moth around this turn, in theory, I can go for a Protect on the following turn, even if Trick Room's still up. I forgot to check the Trick Room turns. And I can be fine. I can be guaranteed fine. Okay. So this isn't a huge concern. Bullet Seed's going to obviously be walled. That's fine. Roaring Moon was chewing this Rock Slide anyway if I clicked it, or with Bullet Seed if I clicked it. They'll go for Acrobatics. Okay, so this is not a huge concern. Because I still get the damage off on Roaring Moon anyway. And that works out well, I guess. Okay, so it's going to determine... Basically, this is going to come down to, I guess, if I can KO with Heat Wave. Twisted Dimensions return to normal. Perfect, okay. So we're going to go for Heat Wave here. And we're going to hope that with the Sun Boost, this is enough to just take out both Pokemon. Now, Farigiraf cannot protect around this. So as long as I hit both Pokemon, I should be okay. Because the Sludge Wave already did a lot of damage, and Iron Moth might be able to just pick it off. Heat Wave is gonna go off, and Roaring Moon takes it. Okay, it's unfortunate, but you know what? Maybe this doesn't have a ground attack. Maybe it just doesn't have a ground attack. We're gonna have to hope. Dragon Claw, okay. Iron Moth doesn't take that. Okay, unfortunate. But you know what? It's an attack boosting Roaring Moon. What do I expect? Very, very unfortunate Draco Touch. I would have fucking won. Oh, we would have been 2-0. It's so unfortunate. But you know what? I can't be too upset. I did win my game 1 off of Burning Corviknight, so it is what it is. Losing game 2 to missing a Draco isn't as big of a concern. We'll try and win game 3 though. We'll see you guys then. Peace out. Okay, and we're here with the final game of the day. We're taking on a team consisting of Murkrow, Fluttermane, Iron Hands, Moongus, Roaring Moon, and King Gambit. So this is definitely actually a Lumineon game, in my opinion. Lumineon realistically could actually probably get a lot out of like a... Well, I don't know if I'm going to tear it, but I could definitely go for like a Tailwind and then maybe go for Encore and a Murkrow, which could be decent. We're going to bring Lumineon, and we're going to bring Fluttermane on lead. It should be decent against most lead options they have. I'm going to bring Iron Moth in the back for sure. Iron Moth does really good offensively here. I'm going to bring Iron Treads. This should help with... this should just be a decent option. I could maybe bring Salmonstow over it, and I'm kind of unsure. I think essentially if I bring Iron Treads, I could maybe make... I think it's realistic this is my Terra option right here, one of these two. And I think it's going to come down to actually the Salamence. I think the Terra Steel Salamence should be decent, and I can maybe also use this to break through Iron Hands, essentially. Iron Treads could do it too, but the issue being is I guess if Iron Hands is their Terra option, I no longer do it with Treads. Whereas I could do it with Iron Hand, with Salamence regardless. So this will definitely be an uphill battle to say the least, but I'm gonna hope that I can make it work. So good luck or fun. We're gonna see Fluttermane and Roaring Moon as the lead options here. This is fine. I'm going to proceed to go for a Tailwind here with my Lumineon because I don't think they'll actually value it. And then I'm gonna go for Protect on Fluttermane here just to try and preserve it a turn. Now, if they do target the Lumineon, that's fine. I'm anticipating they'll go for Gleam on turn 1 and then proceed to go for Acro into Fluttermane in case of Focus Sash. I could also see a Protect from Fluttermane come off, which would work out well for me because I'm not attacking it turn 1. But we have a lot of options here. I think Roaring Moon will definitely tear. They're actually not going to... well, no, they're switching out Fluttermane. That's fine. Fluttermane switching out is really good for me. They're going to bring in Murkrow. Okay. So this works out well. Okay. And they are going to go for the Terra here. Okay. So, they're gonna go for Terra Fire. Okay, Terra Fire Roaring Moon. That's interesting, but I like it. Alright. So Terra Fire Roaring Moon, that's something I could definitely play around actually, because all I need to do is just go for Chilling Water into that spot and just start dropping attack while getting off some good damage, and I can go for Shadow Ball as a tandem with that. They'll go for Earthquake on Roaring Moon. That's fine. I see where they brought in Murkrow now. Meanwhile, we're not going to take a ton of damage with that with Lumineon. Even the crit did not a lot, to be honest. So we're going to get the Tailwind up here. And this should be decent. We can get the Chilling Water off, which should be decent damage against Roaring Moon. Meanwhile, I can go for a Shadow Ball here, which should be good at damaging Roaring Moon as well. Especially since we're no longer getting resisted by this. Now, while Roaring Moon will end up being able to attack before my Lumineon, it's not a huge concern in my opinion, because we're still getting off the Shadow Ball first, and the crit barely brought us below half, so I don't anticipate that we'll take it. Yeah, we'll get... Exactly, we're not going to get KO'd by this. Perfect. So this is now in range officially of my Shadow Ball. I'm going to go for the Encore into Murkrow, just in the off chance we outpace it, because it would be really good to lock this thing into a Tailwind and just make it repeatedly clicking Tailwind. That would be great for us. And especially seeing the fact that they're not unaffected by this due to the fact that it's not a Prankster attack, we're really sitting pretty. We're seeing no Iron Hands and no King Gambit here. This works out amazing for us, actually. I can't lie. So no Iron Hands and no King Gambit. Okay, so that's decent. And we've locked Murkrow into Tailwind, which is great because we're going to force a swap here in just a second. So what I'm going to proceed to do, I'm going to lock... I kind of want to lock Amoonguss into Rage Powders. I think that could be decent. No, actually, no. I'm going to click Safeguard here. This will get around Spore, which will be good for me. And I'm going to Shadow Ball into the Murkrow spot because I'm anticipating Fluttermane or Roaring Moon to come in there, which will work out amazingly for me. I can block any sort of Spores here, which will be good. And even if they Rage Powder here, I'm okay with that. So Murkrow is stuck in Infinite Tailwind. They've decided to commit to this. We're going to get the Shadow Ball off, which is still decent damage for what it's worth. I'm not too concerned with that. Like, that's substantial enough. And this safeguard will officially stop us from getting spored, which is going to be so fucking amazing. Like, it's literally... Oh, they're going to Giga Drain us. Okay, well, fuck you too, being the one Amoonguss running Giga Drain. Okay. That's fine. We've already gotten some decent positioning on them. We've locked Murko into Tailwind here, which is good. We have gotten Amoonguss just on the field, which is good, over literally anything else. Not only this, but we now have the ability to bring an Iron Moth for free. And seeing the fact that their only fire switch-in is Roaring Moon, I'll definitely take that. We'll go for the Heat Wave here, and then I'm going to go for Shadow Ball into the Amoonguss spot. This should cover Amoonguss switching out, which is the more likely candidate, in my opinion, to swap here. So we're going to go for Heat Wave, and we're going to go for Shadow Ball. And this should be a really good way to just start denting their team really quickly. Thankfully, the Lumineon, weirdly enough, got a lot of good initial setup. It allowed us to get some nice Tailwind to keep up with Roaring Moon's offensive pressure. It allowed us to lock Murko in to Tailwind, which is so fucking good for us. If Murko is only clicking Tailwind here, that means it's not clicking stuff like Quash, Thunder Wave, Haze as well. Well, Haze isn't a huge concern for this comp, but especially like the Quash, for example, Thunder Wave, Foul Play as well for damage. Brave Bird even, just the point being is it stops a lot of what Murko can actually do, and by forcing it to only click Tailwind here, that's really good for us, in my opinion. So, Murko's still clicking Perpetual Tailwind here, perfect. I'm fine with that. Heat Wave will go off, this is going to be a nice dent into Amoonguss, and then the Shadow Ball should pick this thing off pretty easily, even despite the berry. I'm not really too concerned with this Pokemon, and even a Giga Drain isn't really going to be too scary either. So Shadow Ball will go off, even if this does take a hit, I'm okay with that. And Amoonguss just drops anyway. Perfect, okay. So this works out well. This works out really well. Amoonguss is gone. Obviously, Murko's Encore ended. Tailwind petered out as well, so it's probably going to click Tailwind anyway here, to be honest. And I can go for Terra Grass on the Fluttermane, actually. On the Roaring Moon, on the Iron Moth, which should be great to get around that Earthquake that's obviously clicking here. So I'm going to proceed to click the Sludge Wave here. And I'm going to click Protect on Fluttermane. Now, if my opponent predicts around this and maybe goes for like a Dragon Claw, so be it. I'm not too concerned with this. The Sludge Wave should be enough to pick off Roaring Moon, though. And I'm assuming Murko's going to click Tailwind here, so I'm more so clicking Protect on Fluttermane just to keep it alive as well as possible. Because my opponent has not actually gotten off any really great damage on this Pokemon. I mean, they've gotten... I don't know, I feel like realistically, though, this is just my safe play. I was keeping Fluttermane around just to have the turn. So my opponent's going to get the Tailwind up with Murko, that's fine. I don't really care. And then Earthquake is going to come up from Roaring Moon, perfect. So Fluttermane is protected, and Iron Moth will just take like nothing from this. So they're gonna probably like what, 3 KO me? It's like a 5 hit KO even. And the Sludge Wave will be great. This should pick off both partners. And I can't really see a way that back Pokemon Fluttermane can actually win this game for them. This should essentially be like a guaranteed game actually at this point, which is really useful for me. So we've cleared the Terra option, and Fluttermane, despite the fact that Fluttermane will do a little bit better damage against Iron Moth, it's a matter of the fact that Roaring Moon didn't KO Iron Moth, which is really beneficial for us. And we still have Salamence in the back actually, which is good. Even if it's just forcing Gleams, I'm okay with that. We're gonna go for the Sludge Wave, and I'm gonna go for I'm gonna go for Energy Ball here, just because it's guaranteed good damage, and we'll go for the Shadow Ball here into Fluttermane. Now, they obviously can't tear around it, and they just forfeit anyway. Perfect. Even better for us. The best thing they could have done, I guess, was click Gleam, which we're fairly bulky on Moth anyway, so we probably could have taken that pretty well. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you enjoyed the Lumineon showcase. Lumineon just happened to only come to one game, but it's been doing that same effort of work for me on Showdown Ladder. And if you want to try this team yourself, like and subscribe for more. Shout out to the channel members, of course, being Josh K Ultra Player, Mia, Zeke Zero, Matt O'Shea, Koemi, and Slade. Your guys' support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to become a channel member today, just for a couple dollars a month, it's obviously appreciated. We'll see you guys in tomorrow's video, where I'll bring a little bit more normal of a team. Until then, though, peace out, guys.